All right, what's up, everybody, and welcome in. This is FST. It's Fantasy Sports Today. My name is Matt Striker. His name is Joe Pisapia, and this is the place if you want to dominate. Season-long fantasy, we've got you covered no matter your record. Still cashing on DFS? We've got you covered. Straight-up wagering is really where the conversation lives. Joe, my friend, it is an amazing time here. We're going to be talking start-sit. We're going to be talking about some props. So let's just hope in this hour that we can help people pad their pockets. First, what's standing out to you? And then let's get right to start-sit.
Oh, that's a good question. What's standing out to me is the amount of injuries we have this week in the RB2 category. There's just a lot of confusion, a lot of committees. You got Singletary back and Tracy's working too. So what's that scenario look like? You've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers situation with Bucky Irving and Sean Tucker and Rashad White, and we don't know what that's going to look like. The maybe changing situation in Minnesota. I mean, the Q tags in the RB2 category are stunning this week. So if you have somebody healthy that's got a backfield to himself, look, Travis Etienne, just moments from now, game time decision too. We were going to update you on everything going on there with this London game before it kicks off too. But that's what's really stood out to me is we are in a situation here where we are continuing to try to find running back depth as best we can. And if somebody is starting and has their full realm of the backfield, you want them in. Good news is you're getting, looks like Brian Robinson healthy. That's a positive for Ramondre Stevenson back and healthy, playing in a good matchup against the Jags. So some good there. It's not all chaos and all despair, but enough that you are a little concerned about what that RB2 or flex spot looks like potentially in a lot of your fantasy lineups.
All right, the ebb and flow of the tides as we enter into this week in the National Football League. Let's move the conversation here. Start, sit, and we start at the running back position here. So if you're a fantasy manager and you have Austin Eckler, who has Carolina, or Ty Chandler, and Joe, you just started to scrape the tip of the iceberg here with what's going on in Minnesota and their backfield questions. Minnesota has Detroit. So start, sit, Austin Eckler or Ty Chandler? Joe Pisapia?
Yeah, again, one of these that's very close. I think I would lean towards Eckler in this scenario here. I like the pass catching ability for Eckler. Brian Robinson is back in this backfield, so that does make things a little bit cloudier. But Ty Chandler, as intriguing as he possibly could be in this game, I don't see him necessarily finishing as an RB1. So I'd rather take the steady presence of a guy like Eckler, who, if you look at the Eckler stats on the year and a good matchup against Carolina as well, he's been pretty good. 75% of the snaps last week, 13 touches, 68 total yards. He had 67% of the snap count, but that, again, is because of the injury to Brian Robinson, so he had a little bit more to do. But he's always going to work in the passing game, too. 5 targets in the last game. I think against Carolina, you're going to throw the football on them, too. This could be a huge fantasy day for all the Washington Commanders against Carolina. That team continues to give up. And I think that, that 33 overall rank so far in the year for him is good enough where you feel confident. You love to see more touchdown equity. So if you're in a standard league, maybe I go with Chandler and hope for the touchdown. That I understand. But in any sort of PPR standpoint, I think I still favor Eckler. Try to take the points that way and get out and maybe get lucky and he gets a touchdown.
All right. Luck. CM Punk,
No,
a buddy of mine, says luck is for losers. I think he has it tattooed actually on his arm. Indianapolis and Miami, Michael Pittman Jr., Green Bay and Houston, Christian Watson here. Joe, thoughts?
Yeah, look, the back of Michael Pittman is not great. He is going to play just like he did last week, but he's not playing with Joe Flacco this week. And so far, Pittman and Richardson haven't gotten on the same page. Now, can the Miami Dolphins defense allow that to happen? Of course. They're not a good unit. So you could see a very good day from the Colts offense. It's possible. But I like the upside of Christian Watson here. I'm finally healthy again. Jordan Love in a game here against the Houston Texans, where I think the Texans will, of course, be very competitive with them. I like Christian Watson. I love the touchdown equity. Now, if you're in the full point PPR, too, I understand that, sometimes the Watson target volume isn't what you want it to be, but I think you have to be more patient with that. I think that's something that can grow over time. Jordan Love has been a guy that has shown you he wants to throw the football. Just ask Josh Jacobs, who's got, the touchdown total is not what I think he was hoping it would be by the time we got to week 7. But at the same time, Jordan Love's going to be aggressive. That's a good thing for Christian Watson. I think Watson can exploit some of the holes at times that might develop in the secondary for Houston. So give me Christian Watson to make another big play here. Love the touchdown equity. Whereas Pittman, again, what is Richardson with Pittman? We still don't have the answer quite to that question yet. I'm hoping it's good. I'm not dropping Pittman. I'm just benching him this week for Watson.
All right. right, let's move the talk to tight ends. Same game, opposing teams got Cade Otton. The Bucks have Baltimore. You have Mark Andrews. The Ravens have Tampa Bay. But you're going to have to wait for this one here. But which one would you choose?
You know, it's funny because I think Andrews has more touchdown equity. The interesting thing is that Cade Otton's just on the field a ton. So, you know, the snap percentage, he's well into the 85, 90% on average range. So he's on the field so much. Now, that means by default, he gets some looks, but he's still tight end 20 on the year. So I'm going to roll the dice here on this one. And I'm going to go with Mark Andrews and hope that we're finally getting him to build out. You know, last week on the show, if you recall, we broke out Mark Andrews. Remember, we called the touchdown for him. Yes. We got it. Broke out Sam Laporta. We were talking about this is the tight ends coming home to the fantasy rosters and making good on all the draft capital. And we were right about it. We nailed that. And I think we're going to continue to build on that here. And I think when you're looking at the last 2 weeks for him, yeah, just 7 catches total, but over 100 yards and a touchdown. I think things are getting a little better. You have to understand, maybe Mark Andrews is the guy who's going to be on the field 50% of the time, but even though Cade Otton's on the field almost twice as much, I don't think he carries the same kind of touchdown equity that Andrews is, so I'm going to chase that touchdown at tight end.
All right, if you're just joining us, Fantasy Sports Today, Matt Striker sitting speaking with Joe Pisapia, the author of the Fantasy Black Book. It's available right now. We're getting your start-sit questions in here, and it's time to talk quarterbacks. And Joe, you personally sat down and wrote the quarterback entries to the Black Book, and you continue to do so throughout the updates. So perfect guy with whom to speak. Kirk Cousins has a great cherry matchup, dare I say, against Seattle. Kyler Murray against the Chargers. Now, I know from earlier in the show and earlier shows that you're beginning to sour on one and really rise on the other. Start sit, Kirk Cousins or Kyler Murray?
I already told you guys at the top of the show, I've lost my confidence in Kyler Murray, and Kirk Cousins has been really good. Cousins right now is QB 18 in fantasy points per game, 12th in yards per attempt, but everything is going in the right direction as a trend. And I think that is very important too. And when you look at Seattle's pass defense, since week 4 against Brock Purdy, Jared Goff, Daniel Jones, they've allowed the highest yards per attempt and the second most passing touchdowns. So that's a good recipe for fantasy points when it comes to Kirk Cousins. So give me Cousins in this one today. I feel very confident about Cousins. And I think Geno is a good start in this game too. Both of those guys I would start over Kyler Murray. I know Kyler has the rushing equity that we all covet. It's very exciting. He gives those video game highlight reel plays sometimes, right. But enough. I want consistency. And Kyler has been all over the board. The passing yards have been low, and I'm really concerned that Harbaugh is going to have some confusion in there and give him some problems, and that's going to lead to another disappointing day as opposed to one of the great days from Kyler Murray. I liked him against the 49ers. I made no bones about it. He always shows up to play them. But against a coach like Harbaugh, I think he's going to have some other things for him to struggle with, and that defense for the Chargers has been much improved year over year.
All right, good stuff as always from you, Joey P. Let's keep the quarterback conversation going here now. Deshaun Watson has Cincinnati. Tyler Huntley is at Indianapolis. We can have a conversation about start-sit, but also a broader game script conversation for both these games. So who stands out to you?
This is very difficult here because the matchup on paper should be.
Now I know why Marge Simpson makes that noise. You know?
Well, I mean, you know, look, Deshaun Watson at this point, you would think that against the Cincinnati Bengals with the name Deshaun Watson, that's where you'd run to. But I don't know if it's a slam dunk, and you've taken away, Amari Cooper now. So that's one of the bigger weapons in this offense. And Nick Chubb's coming back. So that's exciting to a certain degree. He's going to be limited, maybe 10 touches in this game. We'll see. But I just can't get there. And I think the Browns are going to be competitive in this game. I think that, Joe Burrow always seems to struggle against the Cleveland Browns. I think I would roll the dice with Tyler Huntley, and I know that's kind of really surprising. But I've seen that Colts defense just give up so many fantasy points to quarterbacks and so many fantasy points across the board. I think my chances with the weapons he's got to elevate his value. When we come back, we're going to continue on here with those injuries. Who's in, who's out, we'll tell you right after this.
can't sometimes look at the point spreads and just, understand what they mean. Because going into the game, you're looking at it, it's like, okay, Denver's playing better football. They won a couple in a row, and now they're going back home.
The Broncos have to turn around and play on a short week. Sean Payton is returning to New Orleans. The Saints just gave up almost 600 yards of offense to the Buccaneers. So it's going to be interesting kind of gut check.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
But if you're playing the odds and you're looking for something that is a more favorable opportunity, it seems like Bo Naylor doing nothing tonight and just watching paint dry is a good investment.
I'm assuming he's in the bottom 3 or 4 of their lineup, which also puts him at risk to be pinch hit, which is great if you have that under. Gets up once or twice, and all of a sudden later in the game, they pinch hit for him, and then you're just free and clear.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
That kid on the 2-point conversion play was wide open on the right side of the end zone, and the kid threw it about 15 rows over his head.
People crystallize Georgia and Alabama. They put them on the shelf above everyone else, and they're just not there this year. I thought the kid Beck was great on Saturday, but they barely beat Mississippi State, who is porous.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports Today. The mics are hot. I'm Matt Striker. He's Joe Pisapia. It is time now to dive into the NFL injury update. We hear so many things, but let's get the truth and let's get it now. Joe, what do you got?
All right, well, good news and bad news as always on the injury front. First, the good news, Malik Neighbors is back. That's great because he has missed some time here, a couple weeks. We've got him back against an Eagle secondary that's not very good. So I love this matchup for him and Daniel Jones. I think it's one of the sneakier plays this week. And I know you say, Daniel Jones, what are you, crazy? Maybe. But it's not always going to be pretty. But I think it could be fantasy productive. I really do. And the Eagles have struggled. And Nick Sirianni continues to make bad decisions that put the Eagles in bad situations. And let's not pretend like Jalen Hurts isn't one of the leaders in turnovers over the last 2 years. So there's spots here with this Giants defense, even though it's got some injuries on it, to actually come up and have a pretty good game. Also in the wide receiver front, not playing this week, unfortunately, again, Cooper Kupp. So if you got Jordan Whittington, fire him up. That's what you're going to do. Just frustrating. We talked about this on the break. My colleague at Fantasy Pros on the trade program we do every single week on YouTube, he said after that first week, trade Cooper Kupp. His value is at his highest. And he got mocked and shamed everywhere, and he was right. He was absolutely right. It never got any better. It might not get better all year. We never know when Puka Nacua is coming back. The health of the Rams wide receiver room has just been dreadful. I think now, finally, after I think people were Cup curious again this year because it was a bit of a discount, I think that ship has now sailed. I think officially everybody goes, all right, this is not a guy we can invest in because the best ability is availability at the end of the day for a lot of these guys, and he's just never there. So it's a frustrating situation. McVay and the Rams have continued to find ways to be competitive in games, and I give them a lot of credit. Good news, though, Deontay Johnson looks like he is going to play in Week 7. He was dealing with ankle, ribs, hamstring. He was dealing with everything. It's like when Matt Striker wakes up in the morning. Just everything hurts, but somehow he is able to play. Also active Ramondre Stevenson, so make sure he's in your lineup here. I know we just kicked off here with the Jags. Travis Etienne inactive as well, so hopefully you got him out of your lineups. He was a game-time decision. No surprise there. I mean, whenever you see game-time decision, that's out. Yeah. That's all it means. It's out. Because even if they do play, it's not going to be good.
It's just spelled differently.
Bro, I can't tell you how many times I say, well, what do I do if this guy plays? Like, he's not playing. And if he does play, you don't want him in your lineup. If you're so bad off in terms of injury that you have to wait all the way before kickoff to understand if you're going to play or not, you're not going to be effective most likely in that game. This is not like Willis Reed in the 70s, like running up and down on one leg, trying to score for the Knicks. Like, that's not going to happen. This is the NFL. It's not going to happen at this stage. This is not the playoffs. It's the regular season. Don't anticipate it. When you have the game time decision, realize that it's not going to work out in your favor. There you go. Monologue over. Let's move on.
Except the show Game Time Decisions on this network.
That's a great
always
show.
work out in your
That always
favor.
works. Always good. Always tune into that. Good point. Thank you.
All right, continue on. We have a Super Bowl rematch here. Let's talk about some of the personnel involved in that.
Yes, we have Jordan Mason, who's dealing with an AC joint shoulder sprain. He's going to play. He was full go in practice, so that's good. So there was a lot of concern in the market. Should we pick up Garendo? What should we be doing here? But Mason's going to be fine. Mason's going to get his workload, and that workload has been very solid. But the Kansas City defense is pretty solid too. So I think he's a little capped today, potentially, but he's still a must start. There's no way I'm sitting Jordan Mason here. So don't be concerned with that. Brian Robinson Jr., a running back that is in also. So that is a good thing. We're finally getting him back after a couple weeks of not playing. Ken Walker was on the injury report on Saturday because of an illness. So it seems as though he's questionable. No word or update yet on him, but it seems like, again, another 90 minutes before we're going to get an update. So make sure you have some backup plans. I would think he tries to play, but if you're in a shallow league and you have better options playing in the 1 o'clock games, it's okay. I mean, I like Ken Walker, but let's not pretend like Ken Walker is Saquon Barkley or like the best player on your team. And if he is, then you've gone horribly wrong at some point in your season. TJ Hawkinson also out this week. There was some speculation that he would be possibly returning, but again, not quite there yet. It was a big matchup against the Lions. He was hopeful, but he's out for week 7. But also returning Nick Chubb. Now he's going to be limited. Is he startable? Only in the deepest of leagues because he is Nick Chubb and he is special, but he's not going to get a full workload. Jerome Ford is out for this game too. So again, I would think somewhere around 10 touches for Nick Chubb is what you see. If they go over that, I'd be very surprised. And we don't know what we're going to see on Nick Chubb, how healthy he is. There are few guys that work harder than Nick Chubb, that have more dedication than Nick Chubb, that are a better pure running back than Nick Chubb in what is a dying breed. And Matt, we had this conversation on my shows earlier in the week. After Derrick Henry and Christian McCaffrey, how many current running backs do you see making it to the Hall of Fame or having Hall of Fame careers?
Wow.
It's not a lot of them right now, right?
Great question. And honestly, to try to steer it back to wagering, it's a great way to start to think about how we are going to wager on. But no, you're right. Nothing off the top of my head. And we talk about this more so with baseball than anything else. The game is changing. The players are changing, and the marks upon which we judge the players will soon change as well, right? We live in a changing society, and thus the bars keep moving. But I think it'll lend itself to how special it is. And it won't be lost on us that you and I got to see Walter Payton. You and I got to see Gary Sanders. You and I get to see right now the Derrick Henrys and Saquon Barkleys of the world. But I agree. I think the position is changing, the athlete is changing, and the game is changing. So off the top of my head, a running back that I think would make it into the Hall of Fame. I mean, if Kyron Williams continues to do what he's doing, he'd be one of those guys. But
like even the guys like Bijan and Breece Hall, these guys that we like really high on, like right, they've got to put together a body of a career still. Jonathan Taylor, I mean, he can't stay on
Christian
the field,
McCaffrey,
unfortunately.
would be the obvious.
Well, that's what I said. It's Henry and McCaffrey. Those are the two, right? Those are the two that I named. Nick Chubb has that ability, but like after this blown out knee, is he going to have another 4 prolific years? I don't know. It's tough. It's a tough sell, and the game has changed. You're right.
Aaron Jones?
No, he's not a Hall of Fame running back. No way.
Okay. I mean, this is what we're doing here now. This is how it's a great conversation, but it really says a lot. And now we're going to have to start to think about how we want to wager. That really says a lot about the youth and who's coming out of college too. Pay more attention to college. If you don't, it can only help you. So this is good stuff. Good talk.
Yeah. Also in Deebo Samuel with that wrist issue, he is going to play. Juwan Jennings is out. So maybe a little bit easier time for everybody where it gets back to Deebo and Ayuk. Right. Also of note too, Mike Evans with the hamstring was practicing on Saturday. He's going to try to give it a go. Marvin Harrison Jr., he is already cleared for the concussion protocol. So those guys are in. We come back. A look into the future. How did the Hutchinson injury change a race in the futures market? We'll tell you.
can't sometimes look at the point spreads and just, understand what they mean. Because going into the game, you're looking at it, it's like, okay, Denver's playing better football. They won a couple in a row. Now they're going back home.
The Broncos have to turn around and play on a short week. Sean Payton is returning to New Orleans. The Saints just gave up almost 600 yards of offense to the Buccaneers. So it's going to be an interesting kind of gut check.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
But if you're playing the odds and you're looking for something that is a more favorable opportunity, it seems like Bo Naylor doing nothing tonight and just watching paint dry is a good investment.
I'm assuming he's in the bottom 3 or 4 of their lineup, which also puts him at risk to be pinch hit, which is great if you have that under. Gets up once or twice, and all of a sudden later in the game, they pinch hit for him, and then you're just free and clear.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
That kid on the 2-point conversion play was wide open on the right side of the end zone, and the kid threw it about 15 rows over his head.
People crystallize Georgia and Alabama. They put them on the shelf above everyone else, and they're just not there this year. I thought the kid Beck was great on Saturday, but they barely beat Mississippi State, who is porous.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports Today. Matt Striker and Joe Pisapia about to dive into a futures update, and we've been doing this each and every week, and I think it's absolutely fantastic because it allows us to keep an eye on our money and keep an eye on the odds as they move in our favor. Joe is really a big proponent of cashing out. A lot of times early on in the season, you'll catch some odds that just look broken, for lack of a better term, and you know what this particular player or team is going to do, and you just watch those odds diminish. You find yourself cashing out and making your bank. So here we go. Let's talk about the NFL regular season defensive player of the year. Considering the gruesome injury that happened, now the field opens up a bit, and you, Joe, feel that there's one clear player head and shoulders above everyone else for defensive player of the year.
Well, there is, because he is a high-profile player. He's coming off a game where he, punched out 2 footballs, and like T.J. Watt is a menace, and T.J. Watt is always one of the favorites for this award every year, and he's having a great season. T.J. Watt, you can tell from the odds too, by far the guy here at plus 150. Chris Jones is next at plus 700, and Will Anderson having a nice season of his own at plus 800. Now, Anderson and Jones could certainly get in this conversation and shorten this up. But it's really the health of TJ Watt that's the only obstacle here, I think. The public nature of this award, the fact it's a media award, TJ Watt's a very beloved guy and a tremendous player. He's going to get sacks. I mean, this goes to the flashy sack artist typically. It's very rare that you get somebody else to wear this to win this award, and it does happen from time to time. But that does mean that if you want to bet against the health of TJ Watt, which is something in the past has been an issue, there's opportunity here. Jones is having a great season, plus 700. Same with Anderson. Another guy, too, we were talking about our producers before the show, is Dexter Lawrence, plus 1,200, who is having a really good season. Plus 1,200, that is a big return. That's a number that could shrink in the weeks to come, especially if he has some big games here coming up soon. So it's a market to watch. It's a market that when Hutchinson got hurt, I did put some money on TJ Watt just because of the principle of it. He is far and away the best investment, just like Jaden Daniels was in Rookie of the Year. We all said beginning of the year, and then when the number went down, you double down on it. Well, we were in on Hutchinson, unfortunately. It did not come to its full term, but we were right, in terms of where we were at, right? Beginning of the year, he was plus 1,600. We love that. It was basically a 2-horse race. And now, unfortunately, one of those horses is out with a broken leg the rest of the season, it's just crushing. And you hope that he returns healthy at some point and doesn't push too hard. I know he's saying, well, if they make the Super Bowl, I'll be back. And that guy's nuts. He is a football player in every fiber of his being, and we hope he continues to make a speedy and full recovery. But it's TJ Watt's to lose right now. And right now that marketplace has really opened up into a huge chasm. So something to be aware of. And it's still plus money right now if you want to get in on it. And that's something that you can consider strongly.
All right, that's a good talk. And of course, keep an eye on the trade deadline. A guy like Max Crosby gets dealt to Detroit, and we're having a much different conversation. Let's talk comeback player of the year here. It's, I think, one guy's to lose, but the next guy on the list in the larger money, plus 350, is a guy that I think is going to take in a lot of handle. But Joe, you've never been this guy's proponent. Talk to me about NFL comeback player of the year odds. There's 3 names, but 2 really stand out.
Yeah, I think for the movement here, I think it's very interesting that Kirk Cousins has now gone ahead of Aaron Rodgers finally at plus 180. And I think the Falcons are in a pretty good spot to win their division. I don't think the Jets are. Now, they're getting a gift from the Pittsburgh Steelers today. So if listen, the Pittsburgh Steelers are giving you a gift, Jets, take it. Take it. I almost want to root for the Jets in this game because I'm so frustrated that they're making this stupid move by sitting Justin Fields. And this notion that somehow, I don't know if anybody's watched Russell Wilson play quarterback in the last couple of years for Denver. I understand there's some bad circumstances, but this is not the Russell Wilson who was leading, Seattle Seahawks teams to championships here. And he takes a lot of sacks with a bad offensive line. I think this is a very volatile situation to put Russell Wilson in. I don't care what promises are made or any nonsense. You're 4-2. You're winning this division. What does Bull Durham say? Don't F with a winner. Don't F with a streak, right? You're on a streak. What are you doing? But you're right. There is now value on Aaron Rodgers. So if you do believe in this Devontae Adams narrative, if you're just taking all the personal things out of it, the only question remains, do you believe the media likes him enough to give him this award? Because it's a media award at the end of the day. That's my only hesitancy there. And I think there's enough media around Aaron Rodgers that isn't a fan that might not like him. When we come back, we're going to dive into some fantasy overs and unders, so don't go anywhere. We're going to tell you some guys that are going to go over and under their projected fantasy numbers for the day, and also give you ways to maybe make some money on them as well. So we've got a lot more to get to here on FST, on SportsGrid. Don't go anywhere. It's wall-to-wall football here for fantasy and wagering. We'll be right back after this.
Can't sometimes look at the point spreads and just, understand what they mean. Because going into the game, you're looking at it, it's like, okay, Denver's playing better football. They won a couple in a row. Now they're going back home.
The Broncos have to turn around and play on a short week. Sean Payton is returning to New Orleans. The Saints just gave up almost 600 yards of offense to the Buccaneers. So it's going to be interesting kind of gut check.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
But if you're playing the odds and you're looking for something that has a more favorable opportunity, it seems like Bone Nailer doing nothing tonight and just watching paint dry is a good investment.
I'm assuming he's in the bottom 3 or 4 of their lineup, which also puts him at risk to be pinch hit, which is great if you have that under. Gets up once or twice, and all of a sudden later in the game, they pinch hit for him, and then you're just free and clear.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
That kid on the 2-point conversion play was wide open on the right side of the end zone, and the kid threw it about 15 rows over his head.
People crystallized Georgia and Alabama. They put them on the shelf above everyone else, and they're just not there this year. I thought the kid Beck was great on Saturday, but they barely beat Mississippi State, who is porous.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports Today. Matt Striker and Joe Pisapia with you here. The London game has just about kicked off here with the London Jaguars against the New England Patriots. So we will keep you updated with anything fantasy, wagering, DFS relevant while we are on the air. But let's talk fantasy over-unders right now, because this, for me at least, past few weeks is how I've been making my bank, Joe. These conversations, you've been really, really good. So let's continue this talk. Let's start with Tyreek Hill. 55.5 receiving yards is the number. Do you advise over or under, and why?
I'm going over. It's the Colts defense, and I'm just going to keep pounding this table here. Also, it's really no. I'm 55.5. This is Tyreek Hill. And I know it's not been great, but there's been some moments where you could say, all right, the big play's coming here. We're getting close to it. And I think it happens today. I think you see an offensive explosion when you give Mike McDaniel 2 weeks to prepare for a team. I think he's going to have an offense prepared. And I think they realize, look, man, we're not completely out of this playoff race yet. Let's get a win here against the Colts. Let's get Tua back, hopefully, in week 8. And if you could do all of those things here, I know the defense is still bad, but I think you have an opportunity to maybe poke around for a wild card spot if you're the Miami Dolphins. So this is your season these next couple weeks here for Miami. So it's really important that they get this victory today. And the Colts, I had very high expectations for. I love the talent, the raw talent of Anthony Richardson. I love Shane Steichen. You know, Matt, I was very high on the Colts coming into this year, but the defense has been so bad that I just think it's an untenable situation right now. They've got to figure it out. They've got to address it in the offseason. In the meantime, they have a long day ahead of them. Over on Tyreek Hill. I think he's a DFS investment. I think he's a wagering investment, and he's a buy low everywhere in every fantasy league. And if right now, after today, I think that window is going to be shot somewhere around like 5 o'clock today.
Oh boy. All right. It's a great conversation. Actually, let's stay in the same game, different position, different player. Devon Achane, 45.5 rushing yards. How do you feel about this? You considering his health, you considering about all these weapons. Achane, 45.5 on the ground. Thoughts?
Well, I told you on the break, I actually ladder bet him to go over 100. So that tells you where I feel about Devon Achane. 45.5 is a joke. You take the 50, you take the 60, 70, 80, 90, all the way up to 100. Again, the way ladder betting works is you bet harder with your units here in the beginning of those lower numbers there, the minus 110s to plus 110 range. And then as you go up, you go to lesser and lesser because you're getting a better return on your investment. And if he has a day that he's capable of having against this Colts defense, then this could be a bounce back for Achane. And then tomorrow we're all talking about, hey, the Dolphins offense is back. And maybe there's a little momentum there. And if it doesn't happen against the Colts defense, then it ain't happening this year. Then something's got to go back to the drawing board. But it's too much explosiveness, too much speed, too much time for them to get ready and get right for this game. And I think they're going to be well prepared for this one. I think they realize where their season's at, which is you can't afford to lose this game. You got to get a W and then start to get a couple of them in a row. And if you do that, you're right back in that conversation. The Dolphins aren't dead yet, despite the fact that defense is not good. Luckily, the defense on the other side of this game is worse. So give me Achane over, give me Tyreek Hill over, give me the Dolphins in this game today, and give me the Dolphins for an upset too. They're underdogs in this game, and I think that's just flat wrong.
All right, I like it. Okay, so here we go next. All my exes live in Texas. That's why I hang my hat in Tennessee. Let's turn our attention to Tony Pollard. Alliteration aside, this is a sneaky, smart play here. Listen up. The receiving yards, 21.5 receiving yards for the Titans running back. Joe, over, under, and why?
I'm going to go over this. We went over this last week with a principle, which was Breece Hall going against the Buffalo Bills, and Breece Hall against the Buffalo Bills went over this. The reason why is the Buffalo Bills give up more receiving yards to running backs than any other team. This is their biggest deficit, and it's a low number. It's 21.5. It's not a huge number. Tony Pollard has looked really sharp. He looks like the Tony Pollard we saw a couple years ago before the injury that we're all very excited about getting this full run of the backfield in Dallas last year. But again, that surgery, I guess we just didn't account for it enough, but he looks much better than he did last year, running in an offense that is much less impressive. He's getting some help with the quarterback too. Mason Rudolph is an upgrade from Will Levis, folks. And we can make all the Mason Rudolph jokes we want. Will Levis is just giving away games, giving away turnovers, and giving us weird meme moments. Now, it's fun, unless you're a Titans fan, in which case it's misery. But I'm over Tony Pollard here on the 21.5. I think he has a big day. Love him in DFS today. Love him on the overs. I think he goes over the rushing total too. I don't think the Titans necessarily win this game, but it would not shock me if they covered. It's a big number here. I know everyone's really excited. You got Amari Cooper. He's going to be on the field for a little bit here today, but the Buffalo Bills aren't exactly dominating teams nowadays. So this one might get a little tighter, but I would definitely look for Tony Pollard to be a stud in this one today.
Joe, use the word misery. I'm reminded of the great movie, one scene in particular. All right, let's move on here. My time in WWE, I always loved those vignettes, those videos they would do to promote a match or a wrestler's character. Can only imagine if WWE could produce a Saquon Barkley video for this game here. Joe, you talked about it, the truest, purest, earnest form of a revenge game. Saquon Barkley, 78.5 rushing yards, over, under, and why?
I'm going over. I think he gets to 100 today. I really do. I think that this is get the ball to Saquon Barkley and just pound the rock, pound it some more. And that's what you're going to do here. And get him out there in space, too. I think the best wager you can make on Saquon Barkley today, because you're getting, heavy juice there. It's minus 130, 150 in a lot of spots here for him to score a touchdown because everyone thinks he gets one. But if he gets two, it's plus 400. That's a huge jump. I love that number there potentially for Saquon Barkley. So if you get the big Barkley day where he has over, 120 all-purpose yards and 2 touchdowns, which I think when we all sit back and think about the line we envision for the game where Saquon Barkley is really motivated to stick it to the New York Giants, it sounds a lot like, probably 120, 130 all-purpose yards and 2 touchdowns for Saquon. That would be a hell of a day at the office. So, again, Saquon's going to be very chalk in DFS, but he is expensive, so it makes it challenging. But I think the best wager you can make on him is the over, and not 1, but 2 touchdowns, because the 1's just not enough. Or maybe first touchdown score or 2, you're getting 2-1 in a lot of those markets on that too, at least. So that's the other way you can go if the 4-1 is a little too dicey for you.
Yeah, going to be a nice day as well. No elements kind of getting in there to meddle things up. All right, every yin needs a yang. So let's stay in the same game. Let's go to the Giants here. Let's talk Malik Neighbors. All right, now I think every Giant fan is going to hold their breath. They need to see that first hit. They need to see Neighbors up and returning to the huddle quickly. 73.5 receiving yards is the number. Any concerns at all about Neighbors, the concussion protocol? How you dealing with this?
Not concerned at all. I'm trying to figure out if you're the yin to my yang or if you're the yang to my yin. I'm not sure which one.
Buddy, you already know
whatever
the answer
it is.
to that.
You complete me, Matt Striker. Malik Neighbors, 73.5. I'm going over. I just think it's peppered with targets. I think Daniel Jones on the other side of this game, too, a little bit to prove with Malik Neighbors. He's been putting up some QB1 performances. He's in that range. So like it or not, pretty or not, doesn't matter. Malik Neighbors is going to get double-digit targets in this game and against the Eagles. I think that's a really good thing. So give me the over on Malik Neighbors, 73.5.
All right, Steelers and the Jets. The Jets' newest signee will not be on the field. Not talking about Devontae Adams, talking about the defensive side of the football. But Najee Harris, 55.5 rushing yards, over or under, and why?
Now, he went over this last week, right, with 106, but that was all on one big play, the majority of it, one huge run towards the end. The 2 games before this, he did not go over it since they've had the big offensive line injuries, right? So I'm a little concerned. Now, the pivot also to Russell Wilson gives us unknown. The return of Jaylen Warren gives us unknown. If Russell Wilson takes a lot of sacks and they're in a lot of, 2nd and 15 scenarios or 3rd and 13 scenarios, that kind of limits what Najee Harris is able to do, right? And I think you've got to start to think of it that way, too, and understand that Russell Wilson might be able to be a better use for George Pickens, but it might have an odd effect because in sacks and maybe the game plan itself than he would necessarily with Najee Harris. So I'm going to go the under here on the 55.5. I'm a little concerned about him. I'm concerned with the Steelers. It's certainly a game that's got my attention, that's for sure. The other thing that's got my attention, there's some guys floating around the waiver wire that should not be. So we're going to try to pick them up for you and help you out because some roster percentages are far too low on guys. We'll tell you who to add the last minute when we return.
can't sometimes look at the point spreads and just, understand what they mean. Because going into the game, you're looking at it, it's like, okay, Denver's playing better football. They won a couple in a row. Now they're going back home.
The Broncos have to turn around and play on a short week. Sean Payton is returning to New Orleans. The Saints just gave up almost 600 yards of offense to the Buccaneers. So it's going to be interesting kind of gut check.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
But if you're playing the odds and you're looking for something that is a more favorable opportunity, it seems like Bone Nailer doing nothing tonight and just watching paint dry is a good investment.
I'm assuming he's in the bottom 3 or 4 of their lineup, which also puts him at risk to be pinch hit, which is great if you have that under. Gets up once or twice, and all of a sudden later in the game, they pinch hit for him, and then you're just free and clear.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
That kid on the 2-point conversion play was wide open on the right side of the end zone, and the kid threw it about 15 rows over his head.
People crystallized Georgia and Alabama. They put them on the shelf above everyone else, and they're just not there this year. I thought the kid Beck was great on Saturday, but they barely beat Mississippi State, who is porous.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports Today. Matt Striker and Joe Pisapia with you here, giving you everything you need in order to dominate, whether it be season-long fantasy, DFS, whatever it is. Joe, the London game is going on here, and I'm watching you watch the game. Joe, of course, full disclosure, a New England Patriots fan, and you made a great comment right before we came in. You mentioned with Drake May, get this guy an alpha wide receiver and a good offensive line, and this could be a really fun team. And what I like about that, and I'll let you talk about that, is that's how all of our fantasy managers are thinking right now. So we're going to go to the waiver wire and try to find what we need to make our teams formidable. Take it away.
Well, first of all, score alert in that game. Patriots go up 6-0. Now they're going for the extra point, which is good. Touchdown that helps nobody, really. Jermichael Hasty with a reception. So it helps Drake May, those people who rostered him. And look, I talked about him. I said he's a very viable start today against the Jaguars with his rushing equity and what he did against the Texans. The Texans are a tough out, man. And he took some shots, man. The dude took some licks. He got up and he kept going. And you look at Drake May and you say, okay, against the Jaguars, is he a guy in the top 20 QBs in Superflex? Yeah. And so far, looks pretty good there. Tyrone Tracy's looked really good too. Now, I know Devin Singletary's coming back. And some people might even be dropping Tyrone Tracy. He is available in trades, I can tell you right now, because people are frustrated because, well, they don't know what's going on. I know what's going on, which is if you're watching the games, Tyrone Tracy is clearly the more explosive running back. He's the younger running back. I think over time that wins out. So even though this might be a 60-40 Singletary split, I think by season's end it could be inverse. So he is 66% rostered right now. I think that might change a lot in the next, couple hours as people make roster room. Be on the lookout for people who might just blindly drop him because they say, well, Singletary's back, Tracy's no good now, I'm just going to drop him. No. This is a valuable piece because he's already shown you when he's on the field with the full workload, he could be a very viable fantasy guy. I think he has some standalone value even with Singletary back, depending on game scripts. If this game is competitive today, he's got some touchdown equity. So I think Tracy is a guy that should not be dropped. He should be traded for. You get him at a throw-in in a deal, awesome. And if somebody does drop him in your league, make room for him on your roster because it's a long season. We got a lot of football left. As I said, a lot of bye weeks left too. So I think you're in a good spot here potentially with Tracy where talent eventually wins out. And it's not a knock on Devin Singletary. He's a league average running back that has made the most of every opportunity he's been given with the Bills, with the Texans, and now with the Giants. But the fact that he has been with the Bills, with the Texans, and the Giants tell you that he is not the kind of running back that pushes an organization forward. Tracy might be that guy in the future.
Placeholder. Yeah, listen, I like it. I think it has a Braylon Allen feel to me as well. You'd rather have them on your roster than an opposing manager. All right, let's move to Christian Watson here, available in about half of the leagues here. That to me is astonishing, but I guess with injuries and things of that nature. Talk to me about Christian Watson and why.
It's frustration.
I'm gonna check my waiver
it's
wire,
injuries.
actually.
Well, that's the thing. It's frustration. It's
Yeah,
injuries. It's when you look at, the expectations and how he's fallen short. And he's fallen short not because of talent. He's fallen short because of health. So I get it. And I made a pact with myself, right, this year where I said, look, I'm going to draft him everywhere. And, well, you know what? This happened last year. I made a pact with myself to draft Rashee Rice everywhere. And then injuries happened and impatience happened, and I had to drop him in a lot of leagues because I was like, I just can't hold this guy. And boy, oh boy, did I regret it. A couple years ago, I'm on Ross St. Brown's rookie season. Same thing. I drafted him everywhere with my last pick. He didn't do much in the first half. We all remember. We all remember how that season ended. So Christian Watson is extraordinarily talented. I made a pact with myself. Like, I don't care how many injuries I have. You grit your teeth, you bear it, you figure it out, and you wait for this guy to get healthy on the field. And that glimpse we saw last week, good things can happen. So I love the situation he's in. He's got a great quarterback. The potential's there for touchdowns every time he gets a target. He doesn't need to get 10 targets a game to be great. You can get him 5 targets a game. He can be a great wide receiver. 53% is a frustration. It's the injuries. It's all that stuff. Add him wherever he's available because he has definite impact upside.
All right. Now, you mentioned Rashee Rice. So that maybe makes us turn our attention to Kansas City, actually. Is there a wide receiver that you would be targeting for the Kansas City Chiefs right now?
Look, it's got to be Juju Smith-Schuster. I think it surprised a lot of us last time we saw the Kansas City Chiefs that Juju was as active in that game as he was. Maybe it shouldn't have surprised us. They don't have a lot of other options. Hollywood Brown out, Rashee Rice out. So Juju, again, was picking up an injury this week. Everyone was concerned, is he going to get there? I'm shocked by this number just because he's a name that people are familiar with, and he's playing with Patrick Mahomes. Now, Mahomes hasn't been great this year. He's not lighting the world on fire. I hope there's a little reset here after the little bye week where they come out here. He's an underdog. He gets motivated and he puts up a big game here. But Juju is going to get targets. He's going to get looks. Does he have enormous touchdown equity? No, but he's got PPR upside, and he should be rostered in more like 70% of leagues at this point, maybe even more. It's kind of absurd when you think about the overall average is about 50-something.
All right. Atlanta's offensive ecosystem is certainly exciting. How do we get in on that?
You have a piece of Tyler Algier in this backfield. Tyler Algier is just a better running back than people give him credit for. He's a guy that has a 1,000-yard rushing season under his belt. If you have Bijan Robinson, you must have Tyler Algier on your roster. Because if anything happens to Bijan, Algier immediately becomes a low-end RB1, high-end RB2. He's just going to. He's going to get the workload. And how many backup running backs can you say have a 1,000-yard season under their belt in the last year or two behind them? Not a lot.
Good point.
And I love Bijan, but it seems like the Falcons are also in a place where you saw last week, most of Algier's fantasy points came in garbage time. Well, if the Falcons offense keeps running like this, right, and they're up in games, you're going to see a lot of Tyler Algier. You might not see it till the fourth quarter or the second half, and you might get a little panicked if you have to start him. But I think as you get to the bye weeks here, Algier has standalone flex appeal. He has got appeal for touchdown equity. He has got incredible insurance appeal for those people who manage and have Bijan Robinson on their roster. So Algier at under 50%, I think, is criminal, considering a lot of people are still holding on to guys like Kamani Vidal.
Yeah. Good point. Okay, so where there is volatility, we must look for comfort. Where do we find comfort in Pittsburgh's volatility?
Well, I don't know if there's comfort, but Jaylen Warren's healthy now, theoretically, and Jaylen Warren is a more explosive back. And if Russell Wilson is going to take over here for any period of time, I expect some dump-offs to Jaylen Warren, which is another thing that would hurt Najee Harris's value. He should be rostered. Again, this is an asset that was drafted as a low-end RB2, and he's a free agent. He's available in 60% of leagues. I think that's just flat out wrong. Add Jaylen Warren just on principle. When we return, a 3 and out right here on FST.
sometimes look at the point spreads and just, understand what they mean. Because going into the game, you're looking at it, it's like, okay, Denver's playing better football. They won a couple in a row. Now they're going back home.
The Broncos have to turn around and play on a short week. Sean Payton is returning to New Orleans. The Saints just gave up almost 600 yards of offense to the Buccaneers. So it's going to be interesting kind of gut check.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
But if you're playing the odds and you're looking for something that is a more favorable opportunity, it seems like Bone Nailer doing nothing tonight and just watching paint dry is a good investment.
I'm assuming he's in the bottom 3 or 4 of their lineup, which also puts him at risk to be pinch hit, which is great if you have that under. Gets up once or twice, and all of a sudden later in the game, they pinch hit for him, and then you're just free and clear.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
That kid on the 2-point conversion play was wide open on the right side of the end zone, and the kid threw it about 15 rows over his head.
People crystallize Georgia and Alabama. They put them on the shelf above everyone else, and they're just not there this year. I thought the kid Beck was great on Saturday, but they barely beat Mississippi State, who is porous.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports Today. Matt Striker and the Dorian Gray of the sports world, Joe Pisapia, the man that ages in reverse. We've had a great show. We really
Benjamin
have,
Button,
Joe.
I think. I don't even remember.
That's
Gray
what the
is.
kids. No, well, Dorian Gray inspired Benjamin Button, but I am from a different time. But either way, aging in reverse is the joke or the reference. But Joe, it's been a fantastic show. Looking at our social media at SportsGrid and at SportsGrid TV, the fans agree as well. We've had some great conversations about some wagering aspects, some sneaky plays that are really going to help, and they've been helpful throughout the weeks. So let's close it out strongly here. It's time for 3 and Out. These are 3 things to which Joe is looking forward for this week.
Nothing can top an Oscar Wilde reference at the end of a fantasy football show. I can guarantee you there is no other fantasy football related program that's making any Oscar Wilde references. Go read some Oscar Wilde, kids. It's great. It's really good stuff. Very funny, just like us. All right, let's get to the 3 and Out. Rodgers and Adams. I gotta wait to see this, right? How good is it gonna be, right? What if it's not good? Then what happens? Oy.
Don't know.
In this same game too, looking at this Steelers quarterback drama, which has gone all week, I don't get it. Mike Tomlin is a very good football coach. The Pittsburgh Steelers are a model organization, right? They've had 3 since Matt Striker and I have been alive. Seriously? They've had 3 coaches. 3.
Chuck Noll.
3. Think of it. Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, Mike Tomlin. That's it. Since Matt Striker and I have been alive. 3 head coaches. Now, there's organizations like, the Jacksonville Jaguars. I had 3 head coaches in the last 5 years. It's crazy, to think that we've gotten this far. The Pittsburgh Steelers playing defense, having the issues they have, looking and saying, okay, well, we do have Russell Wilson here, but we also acquired Justin Fields, who fell in our laps here for a great value. And we're winning with Justin Fields. And our offensive line is not good. And Justin Fields every week gets out of that pocket and picks up positive yardage. He brought you in the 2 losses you have, by the way, there were 4th quarter comebacks in there where they just fell short, especially that game against the Colts. Like, that was almost a comeback victory where you go, wow, I can't believe Fields has really pulled this team with him to the point where it's relevant. And unfortunately, the defense, couldn't hold it at the end there. And, they fell a little short in that one. But I can't understand why you would change that momentum for Russell Wilson. I don't get it. I don't understand it. There's nothing in the play of Russell Wilson, whether it was, with Hackett or before, that was exciting in the Denver Broncos universe. Like, none of that was exciting. I don't, he was a player in decline. He's a player that takes too many sacks, and you have a bad offensive line. And now you have the Jets defense here. What are we doing? I don't get this move. It's very bizarre. Maybe Mike Tomlin's a genius, and we're all going to look up and say, oh my God, look at that. Russell Wilson put up 30 points on the New York Jets. I'd be hard-pressed to think that that's the storyline that we see. I don't know about you, Matt. Like, I just don't see that coming. And last is another really interesting game here. Good news, Mike Evans is going to play in this game, too. We just got that a little while ago. Baltimore, Tampa Bay. So guns a-blazing for this one. It's in Tampa. Matt, I'm of the mind of whenever Baker Mayfield is an underdog, especially at home, I'm excited for Baker Mayfield. Because, if there's one thing Baker Mayfield loves to be told is no, he's not good enough, all that stuff. It's Baker Mayfield is a favorite that scares the ever-loving crap out of me.
Sure.
But Baker Mayfield in his building against the Ravens, man, I'm excited for this one. I think Baker is going to be competitive. What do you think?
It's smart, and I've been looking at the points here. Overall, looking at this week from a wagering perspective, a lot of the money lines are juiced pretty heavily, so I'm off sides. And what I've done here this week is I've supplemented it with props, things we've talked about here on the show today. Drake May, rushing props, Tony Pollard, receiving props, Saquon Barkley, touchdowns, things of this nature. But when you look at that Baltimore-Tampa game, you can find a little bit of clarity. I'd be shocked if that game is, 10-3. So you can look to the points for that. But overall, I'm off the sides for this week. There are some obvious ones with the juice just too heavy. I'm still playing with the house's money, and I want to keep it that way. So a lot of the props that Joe talked about here on this show are going to be put into effect. And when we come back next week, we'll tell you how they were.
Yeah, and last week was a very chalky week, which means, guess what? This week's not going to be. So get ready for it. The chalky weeks are few and far between and hardly ever back-to-back. I love the Dolphins on the upset today. Some really great games, though, too. I mean, you've got the Baltimore-Tampa game. You've got the rematch of the Super Bowl with the Chiefs and the 49ers. Then you've got that big NFC North matchup, too, where you got the Detroit Lions and the Minnesota Vikings who are undefeated. And as you mentioned, the Saquon Barkley. Like, this is a day to plant your rear end on the couch and just watch football all day long. Great stuff, as always, from our incredible team here at FST. Stay with us at SportsGrid for Pro Football Today to take you all the way through up to kickoff at the 1 o'clock games here. And, of course, stay with us for in-game live throughout the day as well. That'll do it for us, but the story of the game goes on. From Matt Striker, I'm Joey P. Have a great Sunday. Enjoy the games because this should be a great, fun weekend of football.
We're at a point in time coming off of a wild Saturday of college football. People are consistently peeking over at this board. He actually would not be my number one overall pick, nor would I bet him to be the number one overall pick. I think you got that next wave of NFL players, which is so enticing, which when you see Jaden Daniels come into the NFL and you go, I can get something like that with a guy with just as good an arm.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.